Welcome back to the shop. I'm Dave, and this week I'm putting the back of this truck together. Last week I rear geared this Dana 70 from a 355 to a 410 gear set, as well as I rebuilt the limited slip. In between then and now, I splashed a little bit of paint on it here. It's drying right now, and I also got my drive shaft back from the driveline shop here, got it shortened up, and then I also hit that with some paint. And also while I was there, I got some new U-bolts made up. These are the old U-bolts. These are 1/2 inch, and they're quite long. I got them to replicate what they were, but they're a little thin. So these are 1/2 inch, and then these are much more beefy 5/8. This should hold everything together much better, and I'm excited to use them. So because they're 5/8 rod, I'm gonna have to hollow these holes out a bit more because these are the existing 1/2 inch rods that are in here. So I'll get these cut out into some larger holes and then get them hit up with some paint and then go from there. And also I got the new exhaust system showing up. Also off camera, I've been slowly reinstalling the engine wiring harness in here, and I'm almost got that finished up. So the engine should be almost wired up, and then I'll have to work with the PCM module, but that probably won't be a this week thing. I'm still working on finalizing the dash for as far as a plan, and I'll tackle that when I get there. So while I'm waiting for that paint to dry, I got the Ram tank out here and I pressure washed it to get a lot of the grime off of it, and now I'm going to install it. So while I was getting ready to install this fuel tank in the back of this truck here, I noticed that when I was about to slide it in here to hook up underneath this rail here and this front cross member, that it doesn't quite fit underneath where the cab is. I think what I'll have to do here is cut this out and then see if I can get some more space to get this to fit underneath the cab. Alright, so I got her cut up right to the bottom where the cab is, straight across. I even brought this up a little bit higher too for a bit more clearance. I'll show you the inside. So this is the inside, and that opening there is going to be flush with the bottom of the floor, and I'll just put a piece of tin across the whole thing and that'll button it up for good. And just like that, it's in. So I welded new studs underneath here because the old ones were pretty rotten. Did that front and back, and then I hit it with a lick of paint just so it doesn't rust out from the top, because I had to grind off the zinc to make a proper weld. I'll probably have it out again a couple more times until I get everything ran, but for now it looks good. Next up, I'm going to put this axle underneath the truck. Paint's all hardened up, it's pretty shiny, so she's safe to move. Alright, so I got this axle in and the U-bolts in and torqued down. These are 5/8 bolts, grade 8, so it torqued them down to 170 foot-pounds, which should be plenty tight. And then I also got the shocks in here. They fit nicely, here to here. And then I also got back the drive shaft, and that fit in there just nice. So the rear end's coming together here. Now I gotta do a brake job on both this side and the other side, so I got some new parts. So to do a rear brake job, these are some of the parts that I'm going to need. I would consider my brake job to be an extreme service type of deal. So I went ahead and got new brake cylinders here. I got the brake hose that attaches to the top of the axle, some of the adjusters for the emergency brake cable, and then continuing over here, I have the master hardware kit for the left and the right brake and all the associated springs and plugs that I should anticipate that I'll need. What's left of these brakes back here aren't in very good condition. I have some pad left on here and no pad left on this shoe here. It's a little better over here on the driver's side, but when you come around here to the back of the wheel cylinder, this is the bleed screw, and there's not much left of it. So now I'm going to put some new brakes on it. Alright, so I got the brakes tore off the back of this thing. Pulled the wheel cylinder off, and I often have to remind myself that I'm working on a 3/4 ton truck because the size of this wheel cylinder definitely doesn't allude that it's a 3/4 ton truck in terms of stopping power. Like, it's got these big shoes, but this little wheel cylinder. So I'm back at the bench here, and I took the end off the wheel cylinder just to see what the actuator plunger looked like. Just tore that off. Look at how small it is. Now if we take the original M37 master cylinder here, you can see just by looking at it, it's bigger, right? But look at the size of the holes on the end of them. So I'll pop one of these out here, just because I have one handy, and line them up next to each other. Look at the difference. I mean, of course, there could be an argument made to be like, well, this is a, non-power brake application. But imagine if it was. We'd have some stopping power here for a 3/4 ton truck. So I briefly looked into seeing how I could get these retrofitted on the Dodge, the 2001 one. But it looks like in terms of size, overall length, they don't quite match up. But keeping in with 3/4 ton size brakes, these are the old shoes off the M37 here, and I'll spin them around and I'll line them up to what the new ones would look like. The new one probably between the two shoes might have more braking surface than these ones, even though the overall drum size between them is probably much larger. Those wouldn't fit inside this drum. So I'm not stoked on the size of this wheel cylinder here. Now Dodge's, I looked around online, and Dodge's solution to this was halfway through the 2001 model year. They switched from drum brakes to disc brakes, and I mean, that's one way to solve that problem. It isn't the way I'm going to look at this. I was looking around to see if I could get a bigger wheel cylinder, and I definitely wasn't the first person to go down that route. Oftentimes these Ram owners put larger wheels on them and tires, and I'm definitely no exception to that, running 37-inch tires, and I don't think that this is going to fit the bill. So I went looking around online, and I found a solution here, and turns out GM makes this solution. Now this is a wheel cylinder out of pretty much every dually 1-ton pickup that was produced with a C30, K30, 3500. Everything from about the late 70s to the early 90s used this wheel cylinder. You can tell just by looking down the end of it that it's much larger. I'd take this off, show you guys, but it doesn't seem to pop off as easily as the Dodge ones. That's probably for good reason. I mean, I'm not going to mess around with it, but it's non-directional. unlike this one, which you get a left and a right. And they're not very expensive. You just go down there, look for this part number. I'll throw the part number here in case you guys find yourself in the same scenario. And that should be more stopping power for this bad boy. Alright, so I got the back brakes on here. These went on easy enough. One thing to watch out for on these second gens is there's a bolt that goes straight across here, and then there's a 7/16 nut right around the back here. Probably you might be able to pick it up. It's all black. Anyways, once you get that done, you can pull this whole thing out as an assembly and access this small brake adjusting cable down here. These springs down here that hold the shoes on are interesting. They have to clip underneath these clips, and I was able to use that with a small pry bar. Just pushed on them straight on, and they shouldn't go anywhere. But if you have trouble and you can't get this clipped on for whatever reason, just put a flat screwdriver in here and hollow any rust that you see on the front side and on the back side of this thing, and then you'll be able to grip this up without much more problem. And that's what the new wheel cylinder looks like in there. Fits just nice, doesn't bind on anything, and it matches with the original holes back here, just as we suspected it would. I'm currently waiting on the parking brake cables for these to finish this job up, but now I'm gonna put the drum brake on and head on to the next thing. So next up is putting the exhaust system on. So I got a full exhaust system here from Walker, and this is the Sound Effects series. It's not the quietest one, but it's also not the loudest one. The loudest being probably no exhaust whatsoever. But just for the purpose of this build initially, I want to put a full exhaust system on it and then go from there. All right, and it's all in. So I got all the way at the front here. I got the resonator, and I got the muffler here. I didn't order enough of these rubber isolators here, so I need about 2 more, and I'll have to adjust this mount a little bit. I'll probably have to twist it a little bit to get it to work a little bit better. And there's a little mount on the back here that I'll have to get. But otherwise, I think it looks pretty good. I might end up clearancing the other side of this cab here just to maintain symmetry, but I'll do that probably once the cab's off. But here's a view from the other side. So I just realized I didn't film an outro for this video, and that's pretty much the end of her. Next week I'm going to start to be making strides at buttoning this engine up. I'd like to have it fired up in a week or two. Maybe not next week, but hopefully the week after. It's always the small things that delay you the most, like finding radiator hoses that go from here down to there, you know, just like small wiring stuff or the large wiring stuff. You know, like this kind of wiring stuff. Probably take me a little bit.